I just want to tell you, like, when I was doing Flash animation, I'd have an idea, I'd sketch it, I'd animate it, and I'd have that stuff done in a month.
Hmm.
There's a way to do it really fast. I mean, but with this process, as I wanted it to be done as professional as possible. Like when it screens, I wanted someone to say, "Hey, I might not like this, but this is competitive with like a Pixar movie. This is
Yes.
theatric. It's like it might not be what I like, but it looks extremely professional. It sounds professional, professional actors. So what I learned is that process takes a long time.
Oh, 100%. Especially when you're basically, fronting this yourself for the
Yeah.
most part. How much did this all in cost?
Well, so our cost, I had to raise $450,000. So probably all in, it was probably a little over 500,000. And again, it doesn't have to be that much. And really, it should have cost a lot more. I had very, very, very talented people when I offered them the opportunity to just straight be paid, um, or come in and take a little bit of equity in the property. It was 100% up to them. I was very blessed that some of the most expensive parts of this creation were done with the creator or the creative team taking equity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's it. I honestly think that is always the better way to go because then you are doing something you actually believe in, number one. So if you're, say, an artist on there, you're doing this and you actually believe in it. So you actually want to make it the best possible versus just getting a paycheck and then you're done with the project and you go away. It's the same with like when actors take like back end and take a smaller upfront fee. It's like, yeah, if you believe in this project, and you're putting your time and heart and soul into it, might as well take equity over a cash payment. That's how I think of it.
And you're absolutely right. And so this model, so I learned a lot about starting a business, funding a business, and then getting people to buy in. When I was working in the technology industry, I had a lot of great mentors. One of which is a fellow named Hayes Drumright, very successful, and he was very good at getting buy-in. So when I did this, this model doesn't exist in animation, where I can go to an art director who is very famous and does very, very well. But this art director who might have been the nuts and bolts of something that's been insanely profitable is still only going to get what they were paid for the project. So what I'm hoping to do is with the people that came in and helped here, uh, we're all gonna we're all going to see the financial benefit if this thing really takes off. It's not just me, and I don't really care about me. It's going to be David, our art director, our writer. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they deserve it. Going back to the Kirby thing, I mean, he's a perfect example. How rich should the Kirby estate be right now? How rich?
Probably very rich.
Yeah.
Sell a couple of those original arts. I don't know if they still have them or what they did with them, but because back in the day, comic book artists would just, when they were done with their arts, what are we going to do with this? And they would have it. And I remember I read some story where this kid would get sandwiches for the artists and they would pay him in original art. And you're like, here you go.
It's one of the greatest trades of all time.
I know. I know. So back to your short film. So the idea of this is to basically similar to, was it 30 Days a Night? Do you know that story?
Steve Niles. Yeah.
So he had a script. No one wanted it. So he made it into a graphic novel, which then did well, which then that got picked up into a movie franchise. Now they're making another one. I think it
was one of that was great.
Yeah. So is it similar to that? Like you have this short film and you're trying to now get it picked up, right?
Correct.
And what does picked up mean?
Well, that market has been really disrupted, David. So, and we're entering at a very difficult time.
Disrupted? What do you mean?
Well, like for example, our marketplace in which we can. This is a pilot. It's a film, but it's really a pilot. It's the first episode of a series. We are trying to get a series distribution for a series. Mm-hmm. So when you look at people that do the distribution for that, what the marketplace used to look like for us you'd have a bunch of linear networks, for example, like Nickelodeon, a Cartoon Network, the Disney Channel, Comedy Central. These were all places that I was pitching before I made it. So we'd go in and we do a pitch. we'd pitch DreamWorks, we'd pitch Apple, and ultimately, they would pass, or they'd offer us like what they call a production deal, which means they would take it in and work on it themselves, and you'd be at an arm's length. That's when I said, I'm just going to make it. So 3 years later now, I've made it, and here it is. The marketplace has changed.
Streaming.
So streaming is huge, but linear is destroyed. So if you look at a company if you look at like a Disney Channel linear, they might have one new series this year, where 10 years ago they'd be like, I have a whole fall schedule. They all would.
No.
So they've all stepped back, and they're not really buying anything. And then you look at the streamers, and what we learned with the streamers, with the writer's strike, is that, Netflix was spending a lot of money on new content, a lot of money. The writer's strike happens. Now they can't get any new content, and they don't lose any subscribers. Or they go out and they borrow it from foreign countries and they put it up. Subscribers stay the same. So now what they say is, well, we don't have to spend any more on it. Like, it doesn't hurt us.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are smaller than them, you take Amazon, I wouldn't say is smaller, but they have a similar, they watch what Netflix does, because they're
the king.
They're the king. And rightfully so, they've earned it, right?
Yeah.
This is no knock on Netflix, they're a business. But Amazon looks at that and they're like, okay, so we would probably do the same thing. Why are we spending so much? So everyone kind of pulls back. So we're entering a marketplace with something that I'm really excited about, that is kind of like turnkey. Like, we can just give you the episodes, right? Mm-hmm. And people are very cautious about what they're going to pay for. And so that's kind of what we're entering into. So as we premiere this, as we screen it at Comic-Con, my hope is just to create some excitement for the project, while we're trying to get distribution.
So basically you have the first episode, and if you wanted to make a season, 8 to 12 episodes, probably
20. Yeah.
20. You're going to old school 20 in a season.
That's a whole nother podcast about what is an actual season number of episodes.
Let me tell you, I have ranted and raved how much I hate how the shows come out today are literally 6 episodes, 8 episodes a season, and then I have to wait 4 years for the second season, and it's another 6 or 8 episodes. And I'm like, I remember back in the day where it'd be, you get 20 to 25 episodes.
Yeah.
And then they would take 3 months off.
Yeah.
And then boom, you got another whole season of 20 to 25 episodes again. And I'm like, why can't, especially when you find a good show and you're like, it's over. It was like 4 hours.
I know. So it's what you're talking about, like Rick and Morty. I don't know if you're a Rick and Morty fan.
Oh, huge Rick and Morty fan.
It destroys you. First of all, you don't know how many are going to come out. You're like, first episode. And next thing you know, 8 episodes in, and they're like, whatever. They're like, season finale. And I'm like, oh no.
And then it's like, okay, you think next year? No, it's like 2 years. And I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I don't understand.